My name is Nora Cooper, and I was 32 when I learned what a manila folder can do. Inside a family. My grandmother, Lillian, turned 79 on a Saturday in October. She baked her own cake, set the table for 8, with the good china, and dried hydrangeas from her garden. No one came. My parents were skiing in Aspen. My brother, Ethan, sent a text. My father, I didn't bother. My mother uploaded a picture of her ski goggles to the church. Group chat with the word blessed. I drove 3 hours from Hartfield and found her, alone in the kitchen. The candles melted down to the frosting, the ice cream, soap. She looked at me as if she wasn't sure I was real. I cut her a slice. I sang happy birthday twice because halfway through, she asked me to start over. At 10, I tucked her into bed. As I pulled the covers up, she gripped my hand, and her eyes sharpened suddenly. "They think I don't notice," she whispered. I was already asleep. The next day, as I cleaned the house, 2 strangers knocked on the door. The woman, with silver hair and a leather briefcase, introduced herself as Rose Adler. The man beside her was her notary colleague. "Your grandmother retained my firm 14 months ago. She asked us to deliver this to you personally. When the Bodicles and Sodia time came, do not discuss this with your parents before we meet." They placed a Palinar, thick manila folder sealed with Lillian's signature into my hands. Before I could react, they were driving away. Welcome to Quiet Stories, where dignity always gets the last word. I sat at the kitchen table and broke the seal. Legal documents I recognized from my work. Recorded deed. Trust. Instrument. Durable power of attorney. Medical letter. Attached to the front was a note on cream paper with blue ink. "Nora, when they come for the house, open this. Everything you need is here. I love you. I'm sorry it has to be you. Not if they came." When? 14 months before the forgetting got worse. She already knew. Let me explain who I am. My father, Gregory, golfed 3 times a week and called it consulting. My mother, Diane, threw charity galas. My brother, Ethan, ran his real estate firm and owned a German sedan that cost more than my annual salary, and I was the paralegal, $47,000 a year, studying for the bar exam at night. At Christmas dinners, Diane would say, "Nora's still with her little paralegal thing," as if I sold friendship bracelets at a flea market. But that house was mine in every way that mattered. Lillian co-signed my first apartment because my parents wouldn't. She taught me how to read a contract when I was 19. That night, I found a business card behind a family photo. Brenda. Vance and Associates Real Estate. On the back, market value $680,000. Quick close possible. On Monday, I called in sick for the first time in 3 years. Something told me to stay. I found the lockbox attached to the gas meter, hidden behind the hydrangea bushes. Someone had been showing this house. In Lillian's pile of unopened mail, a listing sheet from Vance and Associates. 4 bedrooms. Original hardwood floors. $680,000. $50,000 below market value. In the 88 kitchen drawer, the worst of it, a completed purchase agreement. Buyer, Stonewall Capital Group, cash offer. 30 day close. The seller's line was blank, but someone had penciled L. Cooper underneath, like practicing. The seller's RSS, representative, Ethan Cooper, my brother. A sticky note in Diane's handwriting. Target closing date, November 15th. 3 weeks. I called my mother. "Nora, we had such a wonderful time in Aspen. How's Grandma?" "There's a lockbox on her gas meter and a purchase agreement in her drawer." Silence. 2 seconds. 3. "Your father and Ethan have been managing a transition plan for months. Ethan's company is in trouble. The house can fund a residence for Grandma and help your brother. It's the responsible thing to do. It's her house, Mom. Your grandmother has dementia. She leaves the stove on. She got lost driving to the post office. She's not the person who should be making decisions about a $680,000 asset." She paused. "By Christmas, She won't remember the house. The silence hummed between us. Good thing I do, I said and hung up. Rose Adler's office. Oriental rugs, framed diplomas, brass sign. Adler and Associates, Elder Law and Estate Planning. She met me with a teapot and a box of tissues in the center of the table. No comments. Your grandmother came to give me 14 months ago. She'd had an episode, and a neighbor had to bring her home. She came alone, lucid, focused, scared. She told me, "My son will do whatever," Diane tells him, "and Diane will sell the house the moment I can't stop it. She chose you specifically. You're the only one who would fight for the house. Because you're the only one who understands what it means," Rose explained the legal architecture Lillian had built on August 9th of the previous year with documented full capacity. First, the Lillian E. Cooper Revocable Trust. She transferred the house into the trust. She was the trustee as long as she had capacity. I was the successor trustee. If she became incapacitated, legal control passed to me, not my father, not Ethan. Second, a durable power of attorney naming me her agent for all financial and healthcare decisions. It activated when she became unwell. It did not expire. Third, the letter from Dr. Mercer, her neurologist, confirming full testamentary capacity that day. Lillian understood exactly what she was signing and to whom she was handing the keys. The house belongs to the trust. No personal power of attorney grants authority over assets already transferred. Only the trustee can authorize a sale. That's you, she leaned in. If your family has caused your grandmother to sign anything while lacking capacity, those documents may not be enforceable. That afternoon, I found what I feared. A power of attorney dated September 3rd, barely 2 months ago, naming Gregory as agent for all of Lillian's financial decisions. Stapled to it, a listing authorization in Ethan's name. I compared the signatures, the trust documents, firm pressure, clean curves, the capital L, with its characteristic tail. That was the hand that wrote grocery lists in cursive. The September power of attorney, shaky lines, the pen lifted between letters, gaps where there should be fluidity. Not the hand of a woman who understood what she was signing. I checked the date. September 3rd was the same week Lillian had been in the ER for a fall. Diane had texted me, "Grandma took a tumble, nothing serious." The discharge report noted intermittent confusion and patient disoriented. They'd had her sign during a hospitalization for confusion. Rose came to the house in person. 5 documents in a row on the maple table, scarred by 50 years of Thanksgivings. The recorded trust deed. The power of attorney in my name. Dr. Mercer's letter. The shaky September power of attorney. And the contract with the $50,000 below market price. The house has been in the trust for over a year. The September power of attorney grants no authority over its assets and is almost certainly invalid. This sale cannot proceed. We made a plan, quiet, methodical, built on paper, not on anger. I filed a complaint with Adult Protective Services and discovered an anonymous complaint from 6 weeks earlier already existed. Someone else had seen what was happening. My father came alone one of those days. He came through the back door as he had since childhood. He stood looking at the cabinets his mother chose herself, the sink, window, and the prism that cast rainbows across the floor. She used to sing, "Here," he whispered, "Patsy Cline." Every Sunday. He sat, hands trembling on the table. I didn't want this. Ethan's in deep. Diane says the house is the only way out. You can still stop this, Dad. He looked at me for one terrible, trembling second. I saw the boy who had grown up in that kitchen. Then his phone vibrated. Diane. He stood and left without saying goodbye to his mother. I washed his mug and put it away. Ethan came Wednesday, unannounced. He poured himself a soda and leaned against the counter, as if the kitchen were his. Ethan, kill the listing. The smile went from warm to negotiating. I have a $740,000 balloon, payment due in 8 weeks. If I lose it, The bank takes everything. The money fixes everything. Grandma in a good residence. I save the business. Everyone wins. Except Grandma. Grandma doesn't know what day it is. She knows people are walking through her house. Don't make this complicated. We're family. He left the can unrinsed and walked out. It's basically sold already, he said before leaving. Diane brought a brochure for a luxury residence. When I told her I already had the buyer waiting, her expression cracked for an instant. The papers are already with the title company. Closing is November 15th. This is happening. I almost left that night. It would have been easier. But if you've ever seen someone decide that an editors ever seen someone decide that an etero older person's worth has an expiration date, you know exactly why I stayed. 9 days. Rose and I assessed the options. Petition the court. It would work, but it would buy them time to maneuver, or let the closing happen and show up with the documents. If you show up with the recorded deed and evidence of capacity, the title company will do the work. They can't insure a disputed title. The deal ends in that room. Let the documents speak. I thought of Lillian's note. She hadn't told me to go to court. She had given me a folder. The night before, Lillian worked on her crossword in pen, no pencil, because she said pencils were for people who didn't trust themselves. 7 across, legal instrument of protection. 5 letters. Trust, I said. She wrote it down and looked at me. Smarty pants. Then she reached into her pocket and handed me a folded paper, a note in her shaky but legible handwriting. To Nora, the keeper of the table. Her signature underneath, trembling but intentional. The signature of a woman who knows she is fading and wants to make one last mark. Are you staying? She asked. I'm staying, all right. I haven't left yet. I put the note in my wallet. Capital Title Services. Brick building. Tinted windows. Tarnished handle. I arrived at 1:45. Rose arrived at 1:50. Nathaniel was already inside. We walked in together. Conference room B. 10 chairs, oval table. Linda Yates organizing, documents at the head. She looked up at Rose and paused for half a second. Miss Adler, I didn't see you on the transaction list. I represent the Lillian E. Cooper Revocable Trust. We have documents relevant to this closing. Linda's pen stopped. The door opened. Diane first. Cashmere. Blazer. Pearls hostess smile. Ethan with a leather portfolio. Gregory with a www. Gray face staring at the floor. Brenda Vance with her stack of documents. And, finally, Daniel Foster, the buyer's representative. Navy suit. Diane saw me. And, it stopped. What are you doing here? Taking a seat. I sat. Rose beside me, placed the folder in front of me and waited, the room in total silence. Rose opened her briefcase and placed 3 items on the table, one at a time, like exhibits before a judge. First, the recorded trust deed. It transferred the property to the Lillian E. Cooper Revocable Trust. Miss Cooper, she nodded toward me, is the successor trustee. Diane's smile fell in stages like a building losing floors. Second, the durable power of attorney, naming me Lillian's agent, currently in effect. We have a more recent power of attorney that supersedes that, Ethan interjected. Third, Dr. Mercer's letter, confirming full capacity on the date of the original documents, and Dr. Mercer's current evaluation from last week, confirming Lillian now lacks that capacity. The September power of attorney was signed without the necessary legal competence to be binding. Linda Yates took the deed, compared it to the title report, and looked at Brenda. Miss Vance, you informed me the trust had been dissolved. Brenda went white. The trust was never dissolved. This property belongs to the trust. The sale cannot proceed. Linda Yates squared her shoulders and delivered the 5 words that ended everything. I cannot close this transaction. Daniel Foster closed his portfolio. Brenda stared at the table. Ethan gripped the armrests until his knuckles were white. Diane looked at me as if I had pulled the house out from under her feet. 4. Seconds of silence. This is ridiculous. Diane's voice rose. Nora is a paralegal with no authority. My husband is Lillian's only child and has a power of attorney. Signed by a woman hospitalized for confusion the same week with no capacity. Evaluation attached, Rose said. A power of attorney that, moreover, grants no authority over trust assets. I have a $40,000 payment due in 6 weeks. Ethan exploded. Mr. Cooper's obligations are not the concern of this office, Linda Yates said. Ethan turned to me. You're going to destroy this family. I kept my voice to the volume I had practiced. Conversational, firm. You tried to sell a 9-year old woman's house while she sat alone on her birthday. You had her sign documents during a hospitalization. You lied to the title company, and you say I'm destroying this family. Ethan's mouth opened and closed. Diane was openly sobbing. Gregory remained motionless, looking at his mother's signature on the deed, calculating silently. She had planned all of this. She had gone over his head. Daniel Foster stood up. I think we're done here. He walked out. Brenda collected her things, not looking at anyone. Rose spoke into the silence. For the record, there is an active Adult Protective Services investigation. The September power of attorney will be challenged. Any future attempts to sell or transfer trust assets without the trustee's authorization will be treated as a legal matter. Diane stopped crying. She looked at me, her expression hardened. You'll regret this when Ethan loses his company, when this family falls apart. You'll remember it was you. I stood, collected the folder. You don't get to decide what she's worth. I turned to Linda Yates. Thank you for your professionalism. I will document this closing as null and void and flag the fascination. End. File. I walked out. The November air hit my face, cold and clean. I stood on the curb for 10 seconds, before remembering to breathe. You did good, Rose said. I did what she asked me to. That's exactly what I mean. I drove back to Oak Street, the folder on the passenger seat. The house was still there. The hydrangeas by the path, the porch light on. I found my grandmother asleep in her rocking chair, the crossword on her lap. I knelt and pulled the throw over her shoulders. It's done, Grandma. The house is safe. Her hand found mine. Nora, did you keep the table? I laughed. A real laugh, the kind that comes from deep inside. I kept the table. She smiled. Small, certain. Good girl. She closed her eyes. I sat on the floor by her rocking chair and looked at the kitchen. The maple table, scarred and coffee-stained, still standing where it had been since 1974. Here's what happened next. Ethan's balloon payment was due 8 weeks later. He lost it. Cooper Properties filed for bankruptcy in January. He sold the sedan. He never called to apologize. Diane's reputation in Briarwood eroded. The church group went silent around her. She and Gregory moved into an apartment in the tall spring. My father sent me an email in March. 3 sentences. I should have done more. I know that now. I'm sorry. I read it twice and didn't reply. Some apologies arrived too late to do anything but serve as a record of what someone knows they should have said. Adult Protective Services substantiated the complaint. The September power of attorney was voided. The court named me Lillian's legal guardian and permanent trustee. I took a leave of absence and moved into the guest room at 14 Oak Street, the one with the crack in the ceiling. I'd traced with my eyes since I was 6. I became the person who insured Lillian, ate, took her medication, and sat on the porch when the light streamed through. The hydrangeas. It wasn't the professional step I'd planned. It was the right one. One Tuesday in April, I baked a cake. Vanilla with buttercream. Nothing fancy. I put it on the Bridgeport table, the one that had survived 50 years of tuber, Thanksgivings, and an attempted theft. Lillian walked in from the living room. Whose birthday is it? Nobody's. It's Tuesday. We're eating cake because it's Tuesday. She sat, took a bite, and closed her eyes. This is my recipe. It's good. Don't change it. We ate as the evening light slanted in stripes through the window, the prism over. The sink cast tiny rainbows across the floor, the table held. A person's worth doesn't expire when their memory does, and the quietest love in a family is sometimes the only one standing guard. That's my story. An empty party, a manila folder, and a grandmother who remembered everything first. If this story reminded you to check on a loved one's legal documents, do it today. Share this with someone who needs it. Leave a comment, subscribe to Pro Revenge Stories, and I'll see you in the next story.